Welcome to Football Daily. Today we are going to be covering two teams' free agent signings and their re-signings. And I am here with...
Just Frank about football.
Yes.
Yay! Welcome to Football Daily. We cover anything football here. And I'm going to let Just Jay cover the New York Giants on their signings and stuff. Go ahead, Jay.
Yes, so the Giants signed Paris Campbell, and I've heard that he's a pretty good receiver. These are his stats for last season. He had 85 targets, 63 catches, 623 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, and he had a 60% overall rating. I think this is a good okay signing for the Giants. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And what do you think, Frank?
I think the Giants, anything to improve to get them over the hump. Maybe they have a tough task beating the Cowboys and the Eagles. Anything to help them better.
And the Giants have re-signed Darius Slayton. I haven't seen much, but I think he's a pretty good wide receiver. His stats for last season were he had 70 targets, 46 catches, 724 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, and he had a 68% overall rating. What do you think, Just Frank?
I think it's a great pickup. I mean, a few games I saw him in a couple of the saw him in the playoff game against the Vikings and the regular season. Very dangerous, still very productive. I think a great re-signing.
Yes.
I give them an A for re-signing that guy back.
Yes, I give him an A too, the Giants. And the Giants also signed Bobby Okereke. And I think he's a pretty good pickup because he is a linebacker. He had 112 tackles, 36 assists, 2 forced fumbles, and no interceptions, but he did have a 73% overall rating. I think this was a pretty good signing for the New York Giants. What do you think, Frank?
I'd say he's a solid linebacker. I mean, you need a little depth in there. So he's solid. Giants will improve it. Like I say, it's going to be one of the toughest divisions in football again this year in 2023.
Yeah, I would give the Giants a C. What do you guys think? And the Giants, they also signed Jahad Ward, and he is a edge rusher. He had 29 tackles, 3 sacks, 7 assists, and 1 forced fumble, and he had a 43% overall rating. I'm not too sure about this, but let me know what you guys think, and what do you think, Frank?
You never know with players they pick up like this. I mean, they don't play a whole lot. Their statistics are kind of fooling you, but maybe the Giants see something we don't see. Statistics don't always show you what their ability is. I give them a C.
Okay, I could agree with that, Frank. Okay, we are moving on to the Washington Commanders now. And their first signing was Abdullah Anderson. And his stats were he had 24 tackles and 16 assists and 1 sack, and he had a 62% overall rating. I'm not too sure about him. Maybe Washington's seen something with him, but I'm not too sure. What do you guys think? Comment down below, and what do you think, Frank?
I mean, they're retaining some players or re-signing players that they might. I think they're looking more into depth.
Yeah, I could agree with that, Frank. And next, Washington signed Cody Barton, and he's a linebacker. His stats were They were okay. I'm not seeing anything that stands out, and he had a 63% overall rating, and I'm not too sure about this. I'd probably give it a D plus. What do you guys think? And what do you think, Frank?
Well, I think he's better than that. I'd give him a C plus, maybe even a B minus. I mean, the guy has 91 tackles. I mean, you want your tackles up front, not your linebackers or safeties or free safeties get all the run back. His tackling is pretty good. 91 tackles out of a 16, 17 game season now. I think that's good.
Okay, I could. I'd say a C, but that's good, Frank. And the Washington Commanders also signed Nick Gates, and Nick Gates, he is a offensive guard, and he has played 368 snaps, and he has 4 penalties and 1 sack allowed, and he has a 60% overall rating. I'm not too sure about him. He hasn't played too much, but he's nothing like a rookie or anything, but I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? And what do you think, Frank?
Oh, offensive guards, it's hard. It's hard to tell. The only time you really see an offensive guard get in trouble is when he lets a player get past him or he does a holding penalty. I mean, he's only got 4 penalties and that's so many snaps. He's okay. He'll be a solid player.
Okay, yeah, I could agree with you, Frank. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. And next up is Tyler Larson. He is a center, and they are extending his contract, and he has played 530 snaps, and he only has 1 penalty and only allowed 3 sacks. And he had a 58% overall rating. I think this is a pretty solid pickup for the Washington Commanders. I'd give it a C.
Well, really, with Washington, they got a strong enough team, but basically, they still need a quarterback. But a center, you still need guys up front.
Yes, I agree with that. And let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Okay, and next, the Washington Commanders signed Jacob Brissett. And he had 370 passes attempts, and he had 2,600 passing yards, 6 interceptions, and 12 touchdowns. And he had an 82% overall rating. I think he's a pretty solid pickup for them. I think it's a good idea that they signed him, but I just think they need a better quarterback. But let me know what you guys think, and what do you think, Frank?
They'll probably adjust the quarterback situation. Heineke's still there. I mean, he was solid as a quarterback, but I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, Heineke's a good leader, but Jacob B. Brissett, solid backup, maybe.
Yes, I could agree with that.
City.
And next, they signed guard Andrew Wiley. He has played 1,093 snaps, and he only had 8 penalties, and he's only allowed 9 sacks, and he has a 63% overall rating. I think this was a C plus for the Washington Commanders. What do you think, Frank?
Well, he's also a Super Bowl winner, too. He was on a Super Bowl team with the Kansas City Chiefs. Excellent pickup.
Yes.
Excellent pickup because he's got the experience that might give Washington a chance if they do hit the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and let us know what you guys think down below. And the Washington Commanders also signed Anthony Nelson. He has 28 tackles, 6 sacks, 12 assists, and 3 forced fumbles, and a 63% overall rating. I would give this a C. What do you guys think? And what do you think, Frank?
C plus.
Okay. And the Commanders also signed defensive back Danny Johnson. He had 23 tackles, 38 targets, 1 interception, and 24 receptions allowed, and he has an 81% overall rating. I would give this a B minus for the Washington Commanders. What do you guys think? And what do you think, Frank?
Solid cornerback. I mean, not quite a shutdown cornerback, but he's pretty good.
Yeah. And the Washington Commanders also signed Ife Obada. And he has 14 tackles, 4 sacks, 6 assists, and 0 forced fumbles, and a 55% rating. What do you guys think? And what do you think, Frank?
Good retaining.
Yes, good retaining. Okay, now I'm handing it over to just Frank to talk about more of the Washington, and later on he's going to talk about the Lions. Here you go.
Yeah, since we have so much information on the Washington football team, Washington signed Jeremy Reeves to a temporary contract and then Washington also re-signed defensive tackle Darren Payne in a 4-year contract extension. Washington also re-signed linebacker Kalia Hudson to a 1-year contract extension. And Washington signed tackle Drew Hemmingman. He's a former Bronco, I think. And Washington named Bobby Ingram wide receiver coach for Washington. And then Washington signed wide receiver Marcus Kemp. As it's done with the Washington signings and everything, hopefully this will improve Washington and make them not just miss the playoffs this year, but maybe make it in and maybe might make some noise in 2023. All right, sign off with the Washington Commanders. All right, I'm going to be talking a little bit of the Detroit Lions pickup on free agency. They picked up David Montgomery, running back from the Chicago Bears. What does this mean? It's more likely means the locker room leader, Jamal Williams, will rushing touchdowns in 2020, will be leaving the Detroit after a career best season. Montgomery wasn't as productive as Williams last year, but in short yardage situations, he was considered to be among the top running backs option market of the free agents this offseason, rushing for 801 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns, appearing in 16 games. Montgomery also caught 34 passes and 316 receiving yards and touchdowns. What are the risks? Well, locker room, another reliable runner. Backfield is complement starter DeAndre Swift. In the Montgomery, the Lions are getting a guy who isn't flashy but has been productive in his career, rushing for over 1,000 yards in 2020, amazing at least 800 yards in all 4 of his NFL seasons. Let's go to Cameron Sutton, cornerback who came from the Pittsburgh Steelers. What does this mean? The Lions are fulfilling a major need in defense. Sutton will bring back leadership in much-needed corner group coming off a career last season, which is snagged their interceptions, 15 breakups in the Steelers. But Detroit is going to have a defense allowed opponents to score 25-12 points a game, which has tied for the 3rd most in NFL last season. His versatile allows him to play on the outside line up the slot. If necessary, all that he is 28. And the Lions can continue to develop Sutton. Prior to the past 2 seasons, he's had only started 8 games for the Steelers. What's the risk? The risk of signing Sutton has proven a quality starter over the past 2 seasons, even earned a reputation as a lockdown corner. Detroit need a guy to come in and help prove the durable, appearing in at least 16 games for a straight season. Detroit needed a veteran presence on the defense and is a guy who is more capable of making these plays. Emmanuel Mosley, cornerback. What a pickup for the Detroit Lions. What does this mean? The Lions aggressively have aggressed their secondary by adding Mosley in addition to Sutton before joining the Lions. Mosley spent his entire career in the 49ers organization in 2022. He racked up 22 tackles and 5 passes defended, along with the interceptions in 5 games before suffering an injury, season-ending ACL tear in his left knee. What's the chance or what is the risk? There's serious risk is Mosley isn't able to stay healthy. Throughout his 5-year career, Mosley has only played in more than 12 games once. There's no guarantee he will be 100% the beginning of training camp, but he should be ready for the season opener. His 1-year contract is more proven deal than doesn't lock the Lions into a long-term situation. So there are Isaiah Bugs is also re-signed with the Detroit Lions. What's the risk is prior to the last season, Bugs had started in just 7 games over the previous 3 years with the Steelers with little success. So some could question if last season's performance was abnormally. Detroit still needs a game changer on the interior on even this move. They have major holes to fill to be more competitive. Alex Anzalone, linebacker. Anzalone is resigning with the Lions, a 3-year deal, a source confirms. Anzalone was one of the most productive players on the defense last season, starting at all 17 games. Register a career high in leading 125 total tackles, along with 7 tackles for loss. The move shows that the front office has faith in development of the defense by locking down a familiar face. The Lions' defense ranked among the worst in the league, but did help the team win 8 of its last 10 games. What are the risks? Move actually improved the defense, and there'll be something to keep an eye on. Moving forward, this move was the team's top tackle, but you can't overlook the fact that the defense allowed league-leading 6 point yards per play. From their opponents, their running is back with Anzalone and on 3-year deal. The moderate risk, they're not going to lose anything. It's as far as the player has, the team has had problems with more than 6 yards per carry against them. They did all right with the last 10 games. They won most of 8 of 10 and barely almost made the playoffs. Okay, Matt Nelson, offensive line, re-signed. He contributed on offensive line, one strengths of the team. Nelson displayed versatility in 22, playing both the left and right tackle in the backup role, allowing only 2 penalties, no sacks. He also didn't commit a single penalty in 2021 when he set up to start in 11 games at right tackle. So this signing keeps the O-line intact. What are the risks? I feel very little. It's actually cost-effective for the Lions to keep this player, and I believe it's going to just only strengthen their depth. John Kaminsky, defensive end. Kaminsky is coming off a career-best season in which started 9 games, racking up 30 tackles, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. He spent the final 4 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons before enjoying a breakout year in Detroit. The deal marks a major accomplishment for Kaminsky, who was waived by the Falcons last May before getting claimed by the Detroit off waivers less than a week later. What's the risk? The mild risk here is Kaminsky play is sustainable and he won't be able to help improve the defense. That was one of the NFL's worst last season. Yes, he finished with a second most quarterback hits, 12 behind defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, and was able to free up teammates to make plays, all while playing through a broken thumb. But with the Lions bringing him back, the same key guy from last year from front seven, is his play is enough to spur a turnaround for the Detroit Lions. Graham Glasgow, guard, former Broncos free agent guard, the Lions' third-round pick in 2016. He was returning to the Lions on a one-year deal worth $4.5 million. A source confirmed that Adam Schefter. What does this mean? Glasgow is uniting with the franchise that drafted him in 2016. This move adds depth on the O-line and fill-in offensive line starters. Evan Brown set to leave Detroit for the Seattle Seahawks. Glasgow spent the past 3 seasons with the Denver Broncos, starting 33 of 37 games, and can fill multiple roles if necessary. With the experience at left guard, right, and center through his NFL career, really there's no risk. It's just really going to help and be a great backup for any spot. He can even start. Good pickup.
Yep, I could agree with you, Frank.
Greg Reynolds, running back. This is good for the Detroit Lions. They need more depth in running back. He will look to compete for backup job next season after appearing on career best 9 games in 2022, rushing for 102 yards on 23 carries, along with 9 receptions for 116 receiving yards. What's the risk? Reynolds did miss some significant time, notably during the second half of the season, after being placed on the injury reserve his list with a rib injury. However, this moved him isn't too risky because the Lions are not expecting him to get heavy workload. Reynolds played behind running backs Justin Jackson, DeAndre Swift, and Jamal Williams last season, and it is safe signing to maintain depth in the backfield.
Okay, and that will be all for the Lions, and now we are going to be talking about the Cowboys trade for Brandon Cooks. So the Cowboys traded a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick to the Houston Texans for Brandon Cooks. And I think this is a pretty good pickup. This was the best receiver on the Texans team, and he had 88 targets, 56 catches, 700 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, and a 73% overall rating. I think that the Cowboys get a C for this. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Probably a C+.
Okay. And thank you guys for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed and want to keep seeing more, and we'll see you in our next video.